So while you're getting set up tonight for our September speaker, we have Kathrine Cat Bright, class of 2001. And after graduating Hill, she attended Wheaton College in Massachusetts, and where she studied psychology. And she received her master's in coaching principles and sports psychology from BU, Boston University. She launched her business, KatFit, in 2013 after retiring from a career in coaching college track and field. And for the past 8 years, she has been building an award-winning personal training and nutrition business that's focused on women's fitness from pregnancy and beyond. And tonight she's going to be speaking to us about the importance of showing up for yourself in a loud world to set yourself up for success. So thank you so much, Kat. We're so glad to have you tonight.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. And I'm going to share my screen. So just let me know if you can see the slides, because I can never know what you guys can see versus what I can see. So
yeah, we can see.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, so as you mentioned, showing up for yourself in a loud, busy world, all of us wear many hats. And this is something that I hear a lot in my business, and something that I have grown to understand the importance is to showing up for yourself and the meaning behind it. And it goes well beyond, I know we've heard a lot of self-care buzz in the, social media and all over, where self-care, but this is totally different, where it really gets to the nitty-gritty, what you want and what you want to do, and how to set yourself up for success. Not only show up for yourself, for your well-being, your mental well-being, as well as your professional well-being. So can I go in a little bit about me? As you know, I went to the Hill School, and it's one of those, I always say, I never saw myself ever going to a boarding school. It was one of those things which is never on my radar. I never thought of it. I was a public school kid, just kind of doing my own thing. And then my coach had mentioned to me, he's like, you'd be a really good candidate for the Hill School. And I was like, what is that? Because it had been in my backyard and I had never heard of it. So he told me about it, and I, to be honest, was extremely intimidated. I was raised by a single mom. I was one of 4 girls. We didn't have money. We didn't have a lot of means. And so it was a lot of, I just didn't know how I could possibly get there. So long story short, I applied. And when I got there, I realized what an amazing gift it was for me, because like I said, I was raised by a single mom. And during the time that I was in high school and through middle school, she went to college to better herself and her career. So she was working full-time as well as going to college full-time. So I was taking care of my younger sisters, getting them food, helping them with their homework, getting my homework done, getting chores done around the house, really helping the whole household stay afloat. So when I got to the Hill School, it was all about me. It was my time to focus on me and, bring what I wanted to do with my track career and my academics to set myself up to get into a college. So I kind of just put my head down and I worked. It was just an unbelievable experience to have. And it's one that I look fondly back on. And so when I met my husband in my senior year in college, I couldn't think of a better place to really get married at. So we got married at the Hill, which is a gorgeous setting for a wedding. And since the Hill, I started as Lindsay had mentioned, a college track and field coach. And, I thought I had arrived. I was doing what I thought was my dream job. I was happy. I was, going 100% with my career. I was working with extremely talented athletes. They were earning fantastic accolades. I was working my way up in the coaching industry. And then I became a mom. And what had happened was I was 100% at home, 100% at work, and 0% to me, where I just was a robot. I was like, yep, I'm getting my workouts in, I'm doing this, I'm socializing with friends when I can, I'm, doing everything at home, but there was just nothing. I was walking out on who I was as a person and not realizing what I truly wanted. And I was just on autopilot. So about the time my older son was 2 years old, I kind of had an awakening where I knew I couldn't keep up the same pace. I was driving 100 miles round trip to my coaching position, and I was waking up at around like 3:30 in the morning and not going to bed until 12:30, 1 o'clock. Those are long days, 6 to 7 days out of the week. And I saw a sign where a physical therapy company was looking for a personal trainer, and interviewed for it. And it was just an independent contractor where I basically got to do whatever I wanted, run my own programming, work with some of their clientele, and go from there. And that's when I started to understand how awesome entrepreneurship could be. And that's when I launched KatFit and started growing it. So I have 2 kids, Aiden, who's 10, and Desmond, who is 7. And we just got a puppy. It's our little puppy. I had to put him in there because he's adorable. And so, one of the things that also has helped shape an understanding and showing up is my youngest son's pregnancy wound up being extremely high risk, where I spent most of the pregnancy on bed rest. And about 3 months postpartum, he was born 6 weeks early. We did the whole NICU stint. There was a lot going on with that. I also had a week, I was rushed to the hospital just before he was born. So a whole lot going into that, where I wound up having postpartum PTSD. And that was the second point in my life where I had to gain the understanding of the importance for showing up for yourself and why you can only do that. Running has always been a staple in my life, but since then I started getting more into endurance, going from half marathons to now ultra marathons, and just how it kind of helps me keep sane and keep going. So let's move along. I'll touch back on some of those things there. So things that prevent us from showing up, aside from the busyness of life, whatever we have going on in front of us or even outside, that's even bigger. Things, our goals and aspirations are often dictated by what society or environments influence us. So it's really what's around us. And we don't often have the luxury to sit down and get really quiet with ourselves to understand what we truly want with life. Some of that reason is life is so fast paced. We're stuck in the, I should be doing this, I could have done that, or I need to be doing this. And we lose touch of what is really inside of us. And it's also really scary to commit to yourself. We think about how many times we show up for a job or our friends or our kids within a heartbeat. I'll be there. Okay, you need something, I'm there. I'm going to be there for you. I got this. I got you. We're going to get through this together. I think about, oftentimes with my clients, the easy example is, we need a mom for ourselves to stop us and be like, hey, you need to go to sleep now. Oftentimes, as we do for toddlers or those that are younger, that we are seeing everything that's going on in their lives and kind of see, if you will, that check engine light that goes on for them, and helping them tap into that to understand it. But as we get older, we ignore that more and more because life gets busier. There's more things to distract us. We think we should be doing more. And our culture is not really good at telling us or allowing us to understand what's going on in here or permitting us to have that change. The other thing is afraid of failure. Failure is not looked at as something that is accepted. And failure is good. I kind of argue, when I was in college recruiting, I always asked my jumpers or prospective jumpers, are you good with failure? And they were like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, high jump, you end on a failure. That is the name of the event. You fail because you have 2 options. The way you win at high jump is you jump higher than all of your other competitors. And then you have that pivotal moment where you can either just say, I'm good, and kind of quit on yourself, not challenging yourself to jump higher, or proceed to advance the bar another 2 inches or another inch, whichever you choose, to challenge yourself to go either above and beyond your limits till you can't go anymore, ending on failure. So even though you win, you fail. So that's where it's like getting comfortable with being uncomfortable with failing. The other thing is we stop believing in ourselves and trusting ourselves, which is crucial. We don't realize that we don't believe in ourselves or trust ourselves. Think about those times where you want to do something, but you're like, oh, I don't know. I'm not sure about that. You have these apprehensions and you're quick to make excuses to prevent yourself from doing it. And that is crucial. It comes with excuses. It comes with I'm too busy, or, oh, I never was really committed to doing it, or I'm not gonna, I've changed. So how do you really show up for yourself? One of the things, and one of my favorite quotes has kind of always been on my desk, is the Henry David Thoreau quote, and it kind of taken different meanings, and I've kind of studied it and it's like, what does it really mean? And I know it's an abstract portion of what the full quote is, but go confidently in the direction of your dreams and live the life you imagine. And at first it was like, okay, I should just have a dream life. So everything, I want my whole life to be catered around this. But to me, after years of just kind of mulling over this quote and knowing showing up for how to show up for yourself, is looking at what you want out of life. What at the end of the day makes you whole and set you up for success. Maybe it's getting up at sunrise, seeing the sunrise and doing a sunrise meditation. And so, okay, well, how do you get to that point? You can't get up at sunrise going to bed at 1-2 o'clock in the morning after watching, Netflix marathons. So how do you set yourself up to do that, if that's what really empowers you and sets you up for a really awesome day? And how do you hold yourself to that? What are the non-negotiables? How do you live your life proactively versus reactively so that you are moving yourself forward? The other thing is, how are you not making the same mistakes? Now, that one's a little tricky, is we have to understand that life is about learning, and it's about gaining that awareness of yourself. We're not striving for perfection. I hate perfection. There's no such thing as perfection, but looking at progress. How are we gaining that inner strength? How are we advancing ourselves towards those bigger goals that we're trying to work for? And then not making the same goals. Think about, New Year's is a perfect time for this, that the same 3 goals or same 2 goals that we make every year. One of the most common ones is, I want to lose 10 pounds, or I'm going to read a book every month. I'm going to read, I'm going to go for a weekly hike, and we get all fired up. We start doing that, and then it peters off. And it's like, why is that happening? Well, what happens is we stop showing up for ourselves. We never get down to the true action plan of how do we make this a repetitive and consistent action towards ourselves. So, and part of that is you have to be your own superhero. My little guy. And so when he was little, and he's still little, he's 7, he was Superman. We always, watching him in the NICU and seeing him, kind of push forward where he had no choice. That was his own reality. He had to push forward. And then watching him, go from not being mobile at 13 and a half months and watching him physical therapy, just accept, like, I got this. And with not understanding that, not making excuses, he had no excuses there. That wasn't in his vocabulary. That wasn't in his life. It was, I got this. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep pushing myself forward. And he showed up for himself, because, think of when babies start to learn how to walk, they fall on their butts like 100 times. But we sit there and we encourage them. We tell them, like, oh, you got this, get up and do it again. And so we take away that fear of failure for them. And we allow them to embrace that vulnerability, to toddle along, to fall, to constantly, get those bruises on their knees, brush themselves off and get back up and pull themselves up a little stronger, and allowing them to see that success while they are growing and doing something that they couldn't do. They didn't know that they could do that, but because of that outside encouragement. So that's why being your own superhero through the process will help you. So that takes belief in yourself. And understanding what those paralyzing excuses are. is oftentimes one of the biggest ones I hear, especially in my industry from people is, oh, I'm too busy. I can't commit right now. Really, life is too crazy. In my head, I'm like, when is life never going to be too crazy? Life is always going to be crazy. The bigger your kids get, the bigger the problems, the more busyness there is, the more other things are distracting. We live in an environment where, there's social media, there's Netflix where you can watch binge everything. They don't even stop it in between. They give you 5 seconds. You're like, oh, okay, well, we're starting another one. Here we go. So it's like, you have to understand that those are excuses and that you are ultimately worth the risk taking to show up for yourself for these goals that you may have in your life. And that's scary to understand that you're worth it. And one of the things, and one of the most pivotal parts of my postpartum PTSD recovery was kind of also why I started getting back into running, was I lost all faith and trust in my body. I was an athlete my whole life. I knew I could trust it to perform. If I needed to do something, I was like, I got this. I felt so much strength and power in my body, but I lost all of that after my second son's complicated C-section. And so I started to run again, and the first run felt so awkward. It felt so disconnected. And I was what ultimately, I was running, but it was the internal strife, the mental struggle of just trying to trust my body again. And ultimately I wound up not, I don't think tripping, but just down on the sidewalk on all fours, just so stressed to being like, what am I doing? And I was at that kind of precipice of, do I trust myself? And this little voice down inside said, you're worth it. And I just kind of was like, I had to hang on to that. I was like, I wanted to just sit there and just feel like, I'm done. I can't do this. I'm not gonna run. I'm not gonna keep going on. I'm just like, it's exhausting. I just, there was a lot going on with the recovery and everything. But then I got up, and every time I started feeling that overwhelming, just wanting to quit, wanting to just embrace failure versus trying to progress, it was, I am worth it. And telling myself that it's like, I'm worth it. I'm worth the risk to show up. And it doesn't matter if I fail because I trusted myself. And by doing that, I started to advance myself further. And looking at that, at that time, my ultimate goal was to run a half marathon. Prior to that half marathon, I had never run more than 5-6 miles in my life. I was like, I'm a sprinter jumper. I don't do long distance. That is not my thing, And so here I was just like, okay, well, basically one step at a time. It's just kind of how I joke with my kids, like, how are you going to finish the race? I'm like, left, right, repeat. That's how we got to do. Like, you just got to keep going until it's in. And it's just looking at, okay, I showed up for myself. Okay, I ran a mile, showed up for myself. Boom. That is one little tick towards the finish line of the goal. And looking at, sorry, just jumping in my notes. Breaking down that goal and not allowing yourself to get overwhelmed with the ultimate goal. In life, especially working with my clients, they have the ultimate goal. We all have that fit, feel, and focus that we want and that we see in our heads. And sometimes it's hard to articulate. But if you immediately go, and when you go to that end goal, when you're in the midst of building that scaffolding up to get there, you wind up becoming frustrated and quitting because it's overwhelming. It's something you see all the flaws or the downfalls or where areas where you're not getting there faster. And again, in this world where social media is right there, you pop on your phone or you get an alert and you're like, oh wait, but they got to work out in, or man, they just finished their like 10th book this, month. And I haven't even cracked open the first one, and my goal was to read one a month. We see all this stuff instantaneously in front of us, which detracts us from showing up for ourselves. But if we kind of put those blinders on of just focusing on the little areas where you show up for yourself, you're going to keep becoming consistent, and those paralyzing excuses are going to stop popping up and becoming paralyzing, and they're going to help move you forward. They're going to just drift away. Um, the other thing is, I want to just jump back to this is embracing that vulnerability. It's okay not to have it all figured out. I am so transparent with my clients where, you know, they're missed workouts, you know, missed goals, readjusting of goals is going to happen. That's part of life. You know, we don't live in a picture perfect world, and our goals don't start off like, okay, I'm going to do this and boom, 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 boom. There we go. That's it. I've achieved goal. Now on to goal number 2. And that's part of the messiness of life, is understanding that we have to be vulnerable. And the more vulnerable we are with ourselves, the more we can tap into the authenticity of who we are. And when that happens, the threat of failure fades, and you're able to prevent that all or nothing, or that perfection wheel that we tend to jump on, where it's okay if, you know, taking fitness for example, oftentimes clients come to me and say, I want to work out 5 times a week. I'm like, okay, sounds great, and I want to do it for an hour a day. All right, well, let's look at your schedule. Do you have 5, you know, days or 5 hours a week in order to commit? No, I have maybe 20 minutes 3 times a week or 2 times a week. Okay, so doesn't mean your ultimate goal can't happen, but we need to scale back and understand where you're at to meet yourself, where you're at to build yourself up. And knowing that we're going to get there. I mean, if someone would have told me I would have been running ultra marathons back in the midst of it, I would have been like, you're crazy. There's no way I can even conceptualize how can I get in 40 to 60 miles a week while doing, you know, having kids and running a business. Well, I had to grow and slowly move up to that, where, you know, I always tell my clients, I would not expect my clients to get up at 4:15 in the morning to go run. You know, I had to take many years to figure out and understand, is this something that I wanted to do? Does it bring me joy? Does it spark and speak true to me? And how do I want to set my life up? What are my non-negotiables? What are ways that I want to live? Does this allow me to embrace my life and being there for my children and being there, you know, to spend time with my husband and for my friends and to allow me to show up for my business? Or is this detracting away? Do I need to adjust my goals to make sure that I can still be where I want to be and not lose myself or cause that internal strife internally? So that's where finding a way to become your own superhero. My kids are on today. And then going from there. So kind of just some basic ways to start at that is looking at decoding. It takes time. It takes time to kind of sit down, and it's not an overnight process. That's the one beauty of it, is showing up for yourself can take many forms, and it's not only one way or 2 ways. And how you showed up for yourself yesterday is not always going to be the same way you're going to show up for yourself tomorrow or even next year. So sitting down and taking that time to be like, what is it that I really, really want? What is it that I want to do? And this can be applied to all facets of your life. It's not just with, you know, what brings you joy, or what physical feats, or things you want to learn, or hobbies. It can be into careers. It can be into relationships. It can be into how you want to treat yourself, how you want to, where you want to go in the world, what you want to do in that regard. So sitting down and asking yourself those hard questions, kind of getting really silent with yourself, and peel it back, write it down, rewrite it down, and then try it out. There are things that you may try. You're like, oh, I thought I was going to really love stand-up paddleboarding. I've never tried it, but just throwing that out there. And then you're like, I really hated that. I did not like that. And that's okay. You don't need to like everything, or, you know, understanding that you may not always, you start out liking one thing and you can change. Yeah, I kind of always say, just having fun with running ultra marathons. I never thought I would get into loving. I did a 50-mile race in June, and I thought I was going to hate it. I loved every second of it. And I know that sounds so insane, but it was one of those things where I was like, this brought me so much joy, and I don't know why. I'm just going to ride with it and, you know, go with it and find ways to have fun with that. And then knowing that whatever you decide is, there has to be habits set up with that. Okay, sorry, I lost my notes. So why habits? Habits are things that help you stay consistent to your goal. They allow to bring some autonomy to your commitment to yourself. It's different than going on autopilot. Autopilot is just kind of drifting through life and not really fully living or dedicating yourself to the goal. It's a habit allows you to put in like a system, a safeguard. So I know it changes a little bit. It's not, just kind of for a perfect week example. I know Tuesday through Thursday, I'm up at 4:15 in the morning. I'm out the door by 4:45 to get my run and back in. And that's a habit. So I know on those days, I'm going to bed early. And, my work schedule ends early. I have dinners planned around that lifestyle so that everyone gets fed. And then, Fridays are my easy day. Fridays are my cross training day. It's my easier day at work. And it's also Pizza Friday. So I don't have to cook. I don't have to think about anything because on the weekends, I have my longer runs, which I'm getting up early before all activities. And knowing that I get my miles in, I go to my kids' games, and then Saturday evenings, we're just chill. It's my husband and I, it's chill time. I can relax. And sometimes, occasionally, depending on the training season, I do have another long run on Sundays, but most times it's not. And Sundays are just for straight family time or any other games. So it's taking time to understand what all do I want to do without losing myself, and how can I shape the world around. Obviously, yes, it does take a team and it does take communicating to whoever is in your circle. And that's the one brilliant aspect is as my kids gotten older, they can help out more. So they know that we do not do laundry on the weekends because the weekends are for family time and having fun. And occasionally we have chores. So Friday, get your laundry down. If you don't get your laundry down on Friday, it's not getting processed. So, but it's finding those habits that allow you to kind of take that guesswork out, to take that, extra thinking out of just the everyday so that you can give back to yourself. So you can have those times. Maybe you need a night off. Maybe you need to change. Maybe you want to go out to, I don't know, a show or a comedy club or whatever the case may be, that an opportunity pops up, but you have the ability built into your lifestyle. The other thing is it allows you to have self-efficacy, which is really the ability to see yourself as capable of accomplishing things. It sets yourself up for success. And having these habits and instilling them. So think about, one of the easiest ones to compare is nutrition. I really want to eat better. Okay, well, what does that look to you? Maybe it's I want to start cooking at home. Okay, well, especially with my clients, they're like, well, I want to, start trying new recipes, to take recipes that are currently in my family's weekly repertoire and make it healthier. And I'm like, okay. And I say, plan it for the weekends. Plan it on a time where you have more time to explore. Set it up so that maybe Sunday is new recipe Sunday. Don't put it on, Tuesday where, this person has this event, this person is working late, this, and you are overwhelmed. Set yourself up for success and understanding that you have the time to commit to this new habit that you want to incorporate. And then again, also looking at all of these habits, you have to break it down into smaller chunk size are going to get you to that bigger goal. Because again, if you go immediately to that end goal that you want to get to or how you want to shape your life, you're going to wind up having a lot of frustration and quitting on that. And the basics, this is where I would say is like, it's not just the bare minimum, it's the basics to show up for yourself. Is think about those weeks where it's going to be really crazy, or looking at just taking fitness and nutrition. You're entitled to go on vacation and enjoy yourself, and understanding that it's okay. And that's where that trust comes with yourself, that I can go out, I can enjoy myself. And then when I come home, it's not, well, I took a week off from, fitness and nutrition, and now I've got to hold that over my head. It's okay. I enjoyed myself. I lived my life. I embraced another entity that I don't get to do. Maybe you traveled somewhere that you haven't traveled before. Maybe you saw family or friends and had that quality time. And that fulfills you and shows up for yourself in a different way. So maybe there are certain things, especially with looking at my run schedule, I look at, okay, family's traveling, okay. I look at where I can enter it and now, okay, I'm gonna scale back miles. It's no big deal. I got this. But now's not the time for me to be ramping up here. So I'm gonna scale back here. No big deal. The next couple, the first couple runs back, it may feel a little sluggish. It's all good because I went, I stopped, I enjoyed, I built another entity, part of my life to show up that I don't get to do, the other 51 weeks or 50 weeks of the year. And then the final piece is really taking the time to reflect, is showing, like I said, showing up for yourself can take many different ways. And the way you show up for yourself last year may be different than the way you're going to show up for yourself next year. And that's okay. Goals change, and it's okay for them to change. Sometimes we kind of start at warp speed down a goal, and habits may seem very natural to form. And then we get this dead stop of like, wait, do I really want this anymore? Take that time and sit with that. We're kind of culturally taught that we should always know what we're going to do, what the next step is, what the next goal is, and next task. But that's okay. One of the most biggest events or most recent events is when the COVID shutdown happened. I know a lot of people took the time and it was just like, wait, what just happened? I mean, everybody's lives are turned upside down. And speaking for myself, I was supposed to run a 50-mile race then, but it was canceled. So that kind of sucker punched me, but it was actually a massive blessing in disguise because I was running for all the wrong reasons. I wasn't running to show up for myself. I was running on other terms. And when that shutdown happened, I couldn't run because I had my 2 kids home. I was trying to figure out a whole business and get that sorted. And then my sister, who's a single mom, she needed to work, so I took on her 2 kids. So I was managing 4 kids with virtual learning. Plus my son at the time was a kindergartner, which virtual learning in kindergarten should not happen. That was a mess, and that teacher was a saint. But I was looking at, did I really want that and why? And I had to rebuild back what my fitness and what my running would look like. And I felt more empowered because I wasn't showing up for myself when I was doing that. I was showing up for others that I was running with. And that kind of disguised it where I wasn't tapping into me. I was like, oh, I'm going to show up because this person's there on this run. And oh, this sounds fun. But it wasn't really getting into why I truly wanted to do the race, or why I wanted to keep doing ultras, or, why my training wasn't aligning, or why I felt this strength, because it wasn't on my terms and coming from me. So that's where reflecting is really good. And sometimes having those moments of, I have to put a goal on pause, or I need to just take a moment to step back to go forward. And it's okay to kind of be in that holding pattern, and kind of sit with those feelings until you can articulate, okay, what is the next step? And that's where it's embracing that vulnerability and that risk, and also knowing it's totally okay to walk away. And that's where, when I changed up careers, I felt like I failed my first career, but I was like, no, it just wasn't right for me. I grew out of it. I did what I wanted to do. Did I reach some ultimate goals? No, but that's okay. I'm satisfied. I look back with a lot of pride, and now I'm on to something else. And it's allowing yourself to have that grace that it's okay to change and reflect, because you're not always going to be the same person you were yesterday or last year. So questions, I included, I a few Instagrams, but so I have my personal one that I know, Alumnae, and I follow them there. But Miles from Review is kind of like a passion project. It's all about, my mindset. It's literally my miles from my view, my running, my fitness, and just kind of really, I'm very transparent on there. My clients follow me. It's a way for my clients to kind of get to know me on a deeper level, or other people on just, my mindset and running and fitness. And then my business Instagram is there. So, yeah, I'd open up to questions or thoughts, comments.
Okay. Sorry, can you hear me now? Did I unmute?
Yeah.